Hello and welcome back to goldstocktrades.com. Today we have a returning guest with us, Ian Slater. Ian is CEO of Red Eagle Mining, which can be traded as RD on the TSX Venture, and it also can be traded as RDEMF on the OTC. Thanks, Ian, for being here with us today.
Thanks, Jeb. Good to talk to you again.
Ian, in a time when many of gold equities and especially junior gold mining equities have been correcting, Red Eagle has been named to the 2015 TSX Venture 50, and you also received a critical final approval to go into construction and production of the Santa Rosa Gold Project, which is one of the highest economic projects, highest IRRs in the junior sector. Talk to us more about this receiving this permit and how crucial a step this was.
This is the first permit in Colombia under modern environmental legislation, so it's a huge step for us and for the country. There's a lot of mines in Colombia. Natural resources are very important to Colombia, and it was been an enormous FDI into the country over the last decade. Lots of oil companies have had success there, and it's one of the largest coal producers in the world with all foreign-owned. Many of them are foreign-owned, huge coal mines. And BHP's big nickel mine, and lots of gold mines throughout the whole country. But this is the first one that's been permitted in decades.
So let's focus on this first mine that's been permitted in decades. Could you give us a little bit more understanding of that and the history of Colombia?
Sure. Well, the problem with the potential. I mean, we'll start with the potential first. The potential of Colombia is enormous for gold. We're talking about one of the largest producing countries on the planet before the Civil War. So during Spanish Empire times, Colombia was the largest gold producer in the Spanish Empire, and even before then, this gold has been mined in Colombia from the beginning. So a great place to be looking for gold, and there'll be exploration success there for decades to come. I'm positive of it. But there was obviously troubles with that Civil War, so there's no modern exploration until less than 10 years ago, and then a lot of that exploration money was put into porphyry gold projects, which are not buildable in the current environment. So not buildable globally with the economics and the gold price, and also new to Colombia. So there are open pits in Colombia for sure. Up in Cordoba department, there's a lot of big coal mines, but where we are in Antioquia, there aren't open pits, and where a lot of that porphyry gold discoveries, they were also in Antioquia. And there's many long history, hundreds of years of underground mining history, but not open pits. So I guess where I was going with all that is there was really only out of all of that money that was spent over the last 10 years. So it wasn't safe to be doing exploration before 10 years ago. And then in the last 10 years, a lot of the exploration dollars were spent on projects that are not economic at current prices. And then it comes down to really there was just Continental Spiritica and Red Eagle San Ramon that are going through the permitting process. So I think that's actually, Jeb, that's a misconception, really, right? So if you speak to lots of people in North America that don't really know Colombia and don't understand it, they say, well, nothing's being permitted there, and they look to the Greystar example only, but everyone knows that Greystar didn't do that correctly. They didn't have stakeholder meetings until the very, very end of the process, where we've had stakeholder meetings before we even drilled. So, and it was in a watershed. Obviously, it's going to be very difficult to be permitting a mine in a watershed for a large city like Bucaramanga. So there's a misconception that Colombia wasn't open for business, which is just not true. I mean, you can look over the last 10 years at how many oil licenses they've granted. and with us, it was a very professional experience. We submitted our mine plan in November 2013 with the Secretary of Mines of Antioquia, and they granted us the permit to, full permit for construction and production for 30 years, which is an option to extend that for another 30 years in August. So we're 9 months from submission to granting the permit, and that permit was only subject to the environmental license. That was the one permit we didn't have yet. And with that one, we've worked closely with Core Antioquia, the department level environmental agency that is responsible for permitting San Ramon. We worked together closely with them for a year before we submitted the EIA, which was in February last year, so 13 months ago. And then we've worked with them even closer after we submitted, so they knew exactly what was coming. And they have an office out at the town of Santa Rosa. It was actually just half an hour drive from our camp. So that office there worked really closely with our team at site, and went through all of the data. Our EIA submitted was 3,500 pages, so it really was a modern world class EIA that they worked through with us. But I think anywhere on the planet where you can get your environmental permit within 12 to 13 months of submission is wonderful, and that's how long these things take. And then they've always said from the day we submitted it, they said it would take a year to review, and it took exactly that.
And what's so interesting, Ian, today we have so many of these larger gold miners and mid-tier gold miners having to take write-downs on production that is marginally economic. In September of 2014, Red Eagle came out with a feasibility study which showed cash costs of under $600 per ounce. So at this time, the Red Eagle deposit is quite attractive. Could you speak to more of the economics and how Red Eagle's positioned right now in the junior gold market?
Sure. Well, like you say, we have the highest IRR out of any project that's in development now that's not owned by a producer. And these $74 million capex and $600 cash costs, they were both done back in September at 1,900 pesos to US dollar exchange rate. But today it's 2,600. So there's a huge difference in the exchange rate, and that 40% benefit is going to go straight to our bottom line. So our capex is 50-50 US dollars and pesos. So 50% of our 74 million will be 40% cheaper now, and our op costs are 90% in local currency. So our $600 cash costs are going to be quite a lot cheaper. And also actually another point in there is that in our feasibility study, we didn't include silver because we didn't include silver in our reserves, but all of our metallurgy and our processing does include the silver. So we'll actually have silver byproducts reduced in that cost as well. So we had outstanding economics in the feasibility study, but it'll even be better once it's actually built.
Ian, you recently talked in regard to the economics and the feasibility study. You announced a major $65 million construction financing, and this is at a time where the financial markets have not been so friendly to gold equities. Could you talk to us about the accomplishment of completing the debt financing and the $65 million construction financing?
Sure. Well, we worked hard on that last year. We negotiated 12 term sheets and chose the one that we like best to go forward with in November. They did 3 months of really detailed due diligence, and we were able to announce it just shortly after getting the permit. I think it shows the quality of our operations team down at site, and it also shows the quality of the asset. And of our current shareholders. So now, we have Liberty at 20%, Orion at 20%, and Appian at 13%. And they're all very supportive, and they all want to get this project built. So confident that we'll get we're just in the middle of a $15 million equity raise, and I'm very confident that will happen over the next quarter. And that's the final step before we break ground, which is actually planned for May. So we're very close to starting construction, and then if that timeline goes according to plan, we'll be in production in mid 2016 in July.
Ian, let's focus on the team. You recently announced that Lycopodium's been appointed as a contractor. One of the things that I find so interesting about Red Eagle is that you do have a team that have brought mines to production. As we can conclude here, could you highlight the team and some of the goals going forward in 2015?
Well, sure. We always knew we wanted to be a gold miner. So the team from the beginning has been engineering heavy. Then the two main folks is Bob Bell. I'm my co-founder and partner. He's an Aussie mining engineer who's one of those rare fellows who's a builder and an operator, and has done both many times over his career. And Alan Baker, who he joined us from El Dorado 2 years ago because he's a builder, and we wanted him to go through the whole feasibility process and construction process. So he's been a great help, and it's great to have that continuity from the feasibility going into the construction. We're just bringing on board our plant manager, so he can be involved in the construction as well, an operator. And the Lycopodium's project manager, who they're seconding to us for the construction life, is a very experienced fellow also. So we've got a great team of guys who have all built mines before, and bringing on the operations team early so they can operate. They can make adjustments to what we're building for exactly how they want to operate it. And then we spoke our first interview. I think it was last summer, right, Joe?
Yes, that's correct, Ian.
Yeah, so we since then in August we received the mine permit, and then in October released the feasibility study, and then just this last month received the environmental permit, which was the final permit, and the debt financing. And what we're looking forward to now is the final equity raise and commencing construction. And we're also, we haven't touched on it in this call, but there's enormous exploration potential at the project. We have 100 square kilometers and multiple shear zones, and we've only drilled half of one shear zone. And even that, we only have reserves down to 200 meters so far, just with the density of drilling. So we'll have an exciting year of drilling as well, where the rigs are already at site and the pads are ready to go, and we'll be commencing drilling this summer. And then it's production. We're very close now. We're just till July 2016 we'll be in production, and the first year production is estimated at 70,000 ounces and 55 million of free cash flow.
Ian Slater, CEO of Red Eagle Mining, which can be traded as RD on the TSX Venture and as RDEMF on the OTC. Thanks so much for being here with us and for giving us some insight into Red Eagle's path to production.
Thank you, Jeff.